brave men and women who have served our country faithfully often need our help to successfully transition back into civilian life. Brave Radio is here to highlight veterans and the companies who are making a difference in our veteran community. And now, the host of Brave Radio, Eve Nasby.
Welcome to Brave Radio, in conjunction with Military Mondays, where we're focused on engaging our veterans and making a difference in our business community. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, here to highlight the best and brightest that San Diego and this nation have to offer. We have an amazing show planned today, so let's get started. First up, I want to give a quick shout out to Swings for the Future. I was in a golf tournament on Friday, and Kevin Cortez from Miramar Federal Credit Union kindly allowed me to tag along with them, and we were able to raise some good money to benefit the Chief Petty Officer Scholarship Fund. So shout out to you guys. A job well done. In studio with us first this morning is someone I know you guys are all going to want to talk to after our interview with her. She is an executive coach extraordinaire. She is polished, put together, and her name is Letizia Armendariz-Lane. And Letizia, it's so nice to have you on our show today.
Thank you, Eve. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
Now, our listeners right now are thinking, okay, where is she from? So what's your background?
I was born in Italy, was raised and born in Rome, actually, and I've been there all my life until my PhD, and then moved to the States, to Washington, and I've been in the United States for 20 years now.
Wow. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And among other things, because this is not everything that you do, but you are an amazing executive coach. So for those listeners out there, tell us what an executive coach is and how you benefit folks like me who sometimes have challenges communicating with people.
Well, I do believe that each one of us, all of us, we have an incredible potential within ourselves. So actually, executive coaching is about tapping into that potential and awakening that potential power that lies within ourselves. And executive coach is about pulling this out and enabling people to be at their very best so they can be very successful in their job, in their career, in their relationship, in their whole life.
So we underestimate ourselves, and most of the time, the people that you work with, or even yourself, you're just not operating at your maximum, at your optimum, and an executive coach can come in and say, okay, here's what you can do to be even better. Is that right?
Yes, I do think so. And actually, executive coaching is it's a highly interactive process, exactly as you say. We do know ourselves, but there is always a better way of knowing ourselves, or pulling out, or pulling through what our potential is. And executive coaching is this interaction between the client and the coach. And it's about for the coach to ask that very meaningful question, a very deep question, so we'll allow the space for the client to articulate, to pull this out. And not only about reaching here or his goal, but actually making a long-lasting changes within their life.
So how exactly does it work? Give me an example. How does it work?
How does it work is that, again, it's about the question, right? You were saying, what are the challenges? And one of the things to consider is coaching is focusing on the now of today and the future. So what are the challenges that you're facing at the moment?
I get a bad job review, right? So our listeners out there, most of us all have jobs, and we get out of a meeting with our boss and we either get meets expectations or doesn't even come close to expectations. And we're like, what? I work 10 hours a day and on Saturdays. What do you mean? And so, but we don't know how to effectively go back into a conversation and make ourselves better. So in those instances, can we come to you with these challenges and kind of put them on your plate and say, help me?
Yes, I do have a lot of that.
You do?
Yes, they come, and then when they say, well, why is this happening? Well, the question is, what happened during that conversation? You know, what were the questions that came up? How was the conversation between you and your boss? And through that exploration, because actually coaching starts with an exploratory part, right? A discovery part is what happened, what was said, how was it said, what came through. And yes, it's what your boss said to you or your manager, but how did you react to that? what was the reason, what came out through. And through this back and forth, and again, highly interactive way, is how we can discover the underlying pieces and how to approach them. Right? How to unpack them? How do we manage those? How do we go back and maybe go back into the same conversation and say, I've been reflecting on what we said, and then we can disclose, take this through. Exactly.
You're listening to Brave Radio in partnership with Military Mondays here on KCBQ AM 1170, streaming live on the web at am1170theanswer.com. Follow us on Twitter at Brave Jobs or like us on Facebook to stay up to date with the latest news and trends. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, here with one of the most amazing executive coaches that San Diego has, Letizia Lane. I want to know, from your perspective, the biggest challenges that people face today. I mean, you see a lot of executives, you're working with military folks, you're working with special ops guys who are in transition. What are the biggest challenges you see?
Definitely the transition is one of the biggest challenges that we have, both in the military area and as well as in the civilian work. We always are in transition, even if you are in our own job, but we transition from to. And the challenge is really to get clarity on what we are transitioning. Sometimes we think we know, but if you go deeper into that, you can see there is much more work to be done. And what are we transitioning and what do we want to achieve? And starting with that clarity is the first step to do the work. Transition is also about translating what we have, our strength, our competency, our capabilities, and how that translates into this different environment, this different work, this different perspective. And many times we're expecting people to understand who we are, what we do. And actually, it's never about the other person, it's always about ourselves. Changes and change starts with the self. And in the moment in which you are transitioning, what are the changes that we need to apply to that? What do we need to move from to? This is one of the major challenges. A lot of my clients have a lot of that. And it's huge, and it's always very interesting to see what are the different layers of that. It's a very, very deep work, and it's a big piece of work. But again, if done and is approached with the right intentionality and right, strategy, you can actually get very, very clear results. And
so if I'm a person who's thinking, man, I deserve a raise, I deserve a promotion because I work really hard. And so I'm transitioning from one position into another because I think I deserve it and I worked hard. And by golly, I know more about this company than anybody else does, but I'm not getting anywhere. I'm meeting with my boss and the results aren't there. I'm still in my same old job doing the same old thing, banging my head against the wall. And is that something that you can help me with in promoting myself or getting promoted within the organization and strategizing around that?
Absolutely, yes. And I just love what you just said at the end, to strategize about that, right? So it's not about you don't get that and I think I deserve that. It's about what is the strategy to get that. And again, what was the conversation with your boss? What came through? What is the objective observation where we are? And what is the strategy? And when you have the strategy, what is the plan? So not only you have a vision that you want to be promoted, it is absolutely perfectly fine. But what is your voice? What is your plan? What are the steps that we need to take? What is the action plan? So at the end, what is the call to action that you need to take to go from A to B? It is a transition, but the transition needs a plan, a very clear, actionable plan. And then how do we go to do each one of the steps?
And you call yourself an executive coach, but you don't just talk to executives. This is a service that you provide to anyone who is looking to transition in some form in another in their professional world. Is that right?
It is absolutely right. So I'm an executive coach in the corporate environment, very much about work. I'm a transition coach, and transition is about life. So you can transition from any places to any others. So absolutely, I embrace that piece as well.
And one of the techniques that we've talked about before is, and I know my listeners, you can call me 619-244-3000 and you can vent, but I know this is true. A lot of us like to be in control, but we're not in situations where we are in control. So, for example, that example of I deserve to be promoted or I deserve to do this, thus, or so within my organization. I want that control, but I don't have that control to make that happen. But you talked about the I word.
Thank you for bringing this up. Actually, this is one of my favorite subjects. So what you're talking about is we don't have positional authority, right? So I cannot tell you to do that because you're not reporting to me.
Right.
I'm not your boss. However, what we all have, and people sometimes don't appreciate that, is that we have personal authority. Mm-hmm. And if you think about the word authority, it contains the word author. Actually, you can be the author of your own life. And to understand the positional authority and personal authority is about understanding control versus influence.
Influence is the I word.
And how do you influence someone? How are you enabling someone to make something that you want them to do? And that is how you influence. That is how you move from positional authority to personal authority.
Right. And you're teaching us how to influence, not control. So
Absolutely.
Give us an example. How does that work? What does that look like?
What it works like is one thing that I always teach in my workshop and to my people is that the change starts with the self, first of all. And that means that you are not going to make anyone to do anything if the other person doesn't perceive a benefit for himself or herself.
And that's your personal life and your professional life.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get anywhere.
You're not getting anywhere if you don't understand how that person will benefit from what you want that person to do. So if you're able to put yourself in the shoes of the other person, if you're able to understand what is the perceived benefit for that person, that is the area of influence. Nobody will ever do anything if they don't think it is something for them. What is in it for them?
What's in it for them?
That is the thing.
That's awesome. Well, we are not going to let you go anywhere. We're going to go into a break, and we're going to bring back somebody that y'all need to meet because he's a pretty cool guy. So, Richard, you're up next. And Letizia, we're going to have you remain here. And at the end, we're going to have you interact with a couple of guys that we have here in studio to kind of give our listeners an example of exactly what it is that you're able to do in helping.
Thank you very much.
You're listening to Brave Radio here on KCBQ AM 1170, streaming live on the web at am1170theanswer.com. Follow us on Twitter at Brave Jobs or like us on Facebook to stay up to date with the latest news and trends. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, and we will be right back.
Easter Seals Work First Military and Veteran Services provides free one-on-one personalized employment assistance for local veterans through their Bob Hope Veteran Support Program. Easter Seals' team of employment specialists is dedicated to achieving successful, long-term job placements that benefit both the veteran and the employer. Learn more about how you can receive services, connect with a future employee, or make a donation by visiting easterseals.com/SouthernCal. That's easterseals.com/SouthernCal.
Hey, boss.
Yeah.
I need to hire someone. Our workload's increased and, man, I could use some help.
What are you looking for?
I need someone unlike Ben, who doesn't freak out, when the copier breaks and the phones are down and the receptionist calls in sick.
What do you need?
Leadership. I need a leader who can just get it done with little direction and ahead of time would be great. With the prima donnas floating around our department like Sally and Jason, it's a challenge, man, to get things done. I need a team player, trained in leadership, confident in their abilities, and adaptable to change.
There's only one place you're going to find talent like that.
Show me where.
Our United States veterans. Call Eve right now at 619-244-3000 or log on to thebrave.us and let's hire a veteran. It's good for business. It's good for America.
Brave is a part of America's largest service-disabled veteran-owned business, Amerit Consulting. We are dedicated to placing great companies with great veterans. Call today.
Welcome back. You're listening to Brave Radio here on KCBQ AM 1170, streaming live on the web at am1170theanswer.com. Follow us on Twitter at Brave Jobs or like us on Facebook to stay up to date with the latest news and trends. You can always give us a call at 619-244-3000 for more information. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, and we are here with Richard Charron, who was a part of the Presidential Helicopter Squadron back in the 90s. Yeah. All right. There's your big intro. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eve. It's good to be here.
So which president did you serve?
I served under President Clinton.
Oh, excellent. And so for all of our listeners, describe, you were the guy that came out on when the helicopter landed on the lawn in the White House.
Yes.
Right?
I was one of the Marines in dress blues that walked out. I was one of the crew chiefs, and it's a very unique job. It's an honor to be picked and work in that squadron. Definitely a 4-year highlight over my 30-year career. Yeah. And while I was there, besides being a crew chief, I was also part of logistics operations for the movement of the president.
Wow. And so you kept him safe and you planned out everything?
Yes, part of that.
So you're good at planning, executing?
I'm very good at planning and running operations and being that good strategic leader and communicator.
So is it? Can you do selfies with the president when he comes up?
No, you cannot. No, you have to maintain.
All right, professionalism. I'd never make it. I know. So after you did that, you've had an amazing career in the military, and now you're in transition, as we say, and looking for your next opportunity. So for all of our listeners out there, I want you to pay attention because this guy is one amazing dude. And if you know any positions that are open, I want you to give us a call, 619-244-3000. Let us know. We'll pass them along to you, Richard. But so you did, obviously, a great honor, great privilege to serve in the president for President Clinton. What then did you do? You had some amazing...
Well, I also had the opportunity to serve 2 separate tours in about eight years' worth, joint duty with the U.S. State Department, guarding our embassies and securing our embassies overseas.
And that's a volunteer position.
Yes, it is. It's considered what we call in the Marine Corps a B-billet. It's an additional duty, but it is a volunteer force. The younger Marines, and I went out as a younger Marine in the E4, E5 ranks, we're the ones who actually stand guard at the front door of the embassy. So that we're the first impression a foreign national gets to see when they come through the front doors of a diplomatic embassy. And then again later as the detachment commander when I was promoted later on in my career. And I had the privilege to serve in some great countries, everything from Geneva, Moscow, El Salvador.
And you were in Moscow in the winter.
I was in Moscow in the winter, yes, very cold.
Get those earmuffs?
Very cold. Right. No, but I did pick up one of those nice hats, oh yeah. And I forget the name of it right now, but... and then I served in the embassy in Turkey and then Guatemala, which was just favorite? Incredible. Well, they all had... great qualities about them. And of course, what the number one that makes it is the Marines I served with and lifelong friendships. Of course, the ambassador and the State Department staff at each embassy is just incredible. So each one has its good and bad. In each country, it's just an honor to be in some countries that will never really get to serve there, but here you are helping, and you're helping in a diplomatic mission. It really broadens your horizon on leadership and how our nation comes to aid with many of our countries overseas.
And I can see you in a corporate environment too, with any type of culture, nationality, or whatnot, and know exactly what to do and how to effectively communicate and lead in those various types of environments. Because culturally, you were in so many different cultures, and you learn how to assimilate within that culture.
Yes, you have to immerse yourself in there, and you have to, as they say, when in Rome.
Right. Letizia, our Rome connection.
So you have to be able to immerse yourself and take the good qualities of the mission you're doing and just marching forward with it. And it, like I said, it truly was an honor to go ahead and meet many dignitaries and go ahead and be that face of America. And not only that, but secure our diplomatic interests overseas.
And for you to do that personally is a big deal because you got diplomatic passport. I mean, you had to go through a rigorous background screen and all that to be a part of that. And so I think that's also important for folks to understand that for you in that position was a big deal. And that means your background is clear, spotless. And so going forward within different organizations, you're a good bet. You're a good hire.
Well, it's good to have a top secret clearance, and even take it a step further with what we call sensitive compartmental information, SCI background. And many Marines and sailors, as you know, and our other sister services as well, they have various jobs that do allow them to obtain that level of clearance. Yeah. But yes, it is a very rigorous training, and it's one of what we call in the Marine Corps one of the best kept secrets in the Marine Corps to go out and join forces with the U.S. State Department.
Right. And then you landed in the beautiful country of Myanmar.
Yes, I had the honor and the privilege to wrap up my 30-year Marine Corps career.
30 years. You look like you're 20.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. It's all that good PT the Marine Corps makes you do.
I know, right?
But I had the opportunity to be the Station Sergeant Major of Miramar.
And what does that mean for us civilians?
The Station Sergeant Major is the senior advisor to the commanding officer.
Wow.
So the commanding officer that runs Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, I was his senior advisor and had the pulse of the air station to include all personnel, conflict resolution, process improvement, and how we're going to go ahead and make Miramar run is that efficient city it is, and of course put on the great air show.
Well, we're going to talk about that. You're listening to Brave Radio here on KCBQ, AM 1170, streaming live on the web at AM1170theanswer.com. We're here in studio with Richard Charron, who was the second in command over at Miramar, and the air show. Wow, that's coming up in a couple of months. And so all of those logistical things that you had to put together, talk about the duties and responsibilities and some of that stuff that was on your shoulders.
Well, we have countdown and planning meetings, and there's so much that comes together to put that air show on. And of course, there's an executive team aboard Miramar from the various sections, personnel, and of course our marketing and our Marine Corps Community Services that really digs down and puts this great event on every year. And there were countdown meetings, of course. We had to have our countdown meetings every week to make sure that everyone was on the same sheet, that all the T's were getting crossed and the I's were getting dotted. And of course, you're hosting the greatest city, San Diego, to open house and have some of the greatest acts, like the Blue Angels and Breitling Watch and the Patriots, but it's an incredible honor to go ahead and do that air show. It's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it's definitely worth it.
I think the AV-8 and the Red Bull demos are my favorite. And then we've got a brand new aircraft that's that's replacing the AV-8.
The Joint Strike Fighter that came in. That's, amazing. Yes.
Amazing. Gets me all excited. So all of that, you have a lot of responsibility. And Miramar is like a little country. It's got everything right there. You've got an entire city that you're running. And that's huge. So my question is, exactly who wouldn't want to hire you? You've got the leadership, you've got the integrity, you've got the motivation, you've got the team building and all of that. So what type of work are you now looking for in the civilian workforce?
Well, I'm looking for something in operations management. I like being able to take a project, an operation, and watch it go from the very beginning planning stages, which is the most important, that planning. And in the Marine Corps, we do emphasize a lot on planning.
Yes.
But I like watching a project go from the very beginning stages and watch it succeed all the way at the end. And of course, when you want it to succeed, you just don't want it to succeed. You want it to overpass.
You want to wow.
Yeah, you want to really wow. And that's, of course, what the Marine Corps teaches all of us to do, and definitely taught myself to do.
Give me an example of when you were faced with a challenge and you overcame that challenge and you wowed everybody.
Well, I'd have to say, honestly, one of the biggest challenges, and it was the whole team at Miramar when we had we put together an air show under sequestration. And even though it was canceled at the very end,
that broke my heart.
We were ready. We were ready to really knock the socks off San Diego. And that goes back to the team effort. The team effort of all the Marines and sailors and the leadership that's aboard Miramar, and of course all the civilian Marines, all our great civilian Marines that work aboard that air station, and really making it come together. And of course just the relationship with San Diego itself, who was behind us 100%. And really it was sad to go ahead and have to shut that down that year. But that was a project that we were not going to let go. And we didn't, all the way up until, 6 hours prior to opening the gate.
That's awesome. What do you think are your biggest strengths? When we've got a company that's looking to hire you, they're talking about strengths and weaknesses. What would you say, this is why you need to hire me versus Eve?
Leadership. Born leader. Just like every other Marine is.
And I want my listeners to know he looked me straight in the eye and said that. And I believe you. So talk about your leadership.
Leadership, being able to communicate effectively with all of you, everyone around, to make that operation or make that mission go. As you know, it's always the job. It's a job first, but it's people always.
Yes.
And it's it's being able to be that effective leader and that effective team builder that can walk into a business and hopefully to an outside organization, be what I'd like to call their unicorn.
Yeah.
They're a person that can, I bring something to the table that we do not have. We have the experts in A, B, C, and D, and now we have our Z.
Right. That's excellent. All right. Give us the last example of who you are that best demonstrates who you are as a leader. Give us an example.
Okay. I'd say...
Put you on the spot.
I am as a leader. No, it's not really on the spot. It's just trying to... who I am as a leader, and I would honestly have to say it's being goal-driven. Goal-driven. No is, failure is not an option. So no is not in my vocabulary. And taking all those traits that I was taught, and I put to work every single day. Those are the same traits, same work ethic, commitment, dedication that I like to bring to the table for any outstanding company out there here in San Diego.
All right, Richard, thank you so much. Any final words before we close this? You're coming back on the show, so you're not going anywhere. Nope,
no.
You're good?
I'm good.
All right, Richard Charron, former Marine. No, still a Marine here in...
Still for another 13 days.
June 30th.
And once one, always one, so.
Oh, yes, sorry. All right, Richard, thank you so much for being a part of our show.
Thank you.
You're listening to Brave Radio here on KCBQ, AM 1170, streaming live on the web at am1170theanswer.com. Follow us on Twitter at Brave Jobs or like us on Facebook to stay up to date with the latest news and trends. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, and we will be right back with somebody you guys got to listen to. Don't go away.
Hey, boss.
Yeah.
I need to hire someone. Our workload's increased and, man, I could use some help.
What are you looking for?
I need someone unlike Ben, who doesn't freak out, when the copier breaks and the phones are down and the receptionist calls in sick.
What do you need?
Leadership. I need a leader who can just get it done with little direction and ahead of time would be great. With the prima donnas floating around our department like Sally and Jason, it's a challenge, man, to get things done. I need a team player, trained in leadership, confident in their abilities, and adaptable to change.
There's only one place you're going to find talent like that.
Show me where.
Our United States veterans. Call Eve right now at 619-244-3000 or log on to thebrave.us and let's hire a veteran. It's good for business. It's good for America.
Brave is a part of America's largest service-disabled veteran-owned business, Merit Consulting. We are dedicated to placing great companies with great veterans. Call today.
Welcome back. You're listening to Brave Radio here on KCBQ AM 1170, streaming live on the web at am1170theanswer.com. Follow us on Twitter at Brave Jobs or like us on Facebook to stay up to date with the latest news and trends. I am your host, Eve Nasby, here with an amazing individual named Danny Lawrence, and I can't wait for you all to meet him. Welcome to the show, Danny.
Thank you, Eve. Thanks for having me.
So you watched an amazing movie called Top Gun and decided what?
That I wanted to wear choker whites.
And you jumped into the military.
I did. I was living in Davis, California at the time. I was 23. It's hard to live in a college town and not go to college.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of roommates and the place was a madhouse all the time. And I thought, at the time, I was an inspiring interior design student.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I wanted to go into architecture, but my math wasn't so great. And so I had two friends in the military. I watched Top Gun, and that inspired me.
And you went down and signed up.
Yeah.
And you, through your career path, you eventually wore a T-shirt that said, "If I'm running, try to keep up," because you got an EOD. So talk about your career path in the military.
I started working on a ship. I was Popeye, basically. I painted the ship, did all the mooring. We worked basically on, I call them floating grocery stores or gas stations. We supplied other ships with fuel and stores and everything else. Did that for two ships. So I was did for 4 years, got out, joined the reserves and went back in as a recruiter. Did that for 5 years. Wow. And there was a unit that we kept sending people to called EOD. Mm-hmm. I knew a little bit about it, but I
what's it stand for? Explosive
Ordnance Disposal.
The fun stuff.
They did all the cool stuff. They jumped and shot things, and I thought, I want to go to that unit.
Okay.
So when I was done recruiting, I went into that unit with no intent on being an EOD guy, and I just kind of fell into it, and I'm glad I did. I enjoyed it. So I did that for about half my career.
So you have a good story about EOD?
None that I can tell you.
None that you do. Oh, man, I hate that answer. All right. After that.
It's a good catch-all. I don't really have a story. So I got out I retired in 2013. Mm-hmm. Then I went on to UCSD to get my MBA at Rady School of Management.
Excellent. What a great school.
It is. It really is. And while I was there, I joined the Honor Foundation.
Joe Musselman.
What
a great guy.
Yeah, he really is. I was in class 4 there, and just a solid group of people, not only the people running the organization, but the people coming through. I mean, all the people in the special warfare community, not just Navy, but Marine Corps, Army, Air Force. So
now the big question is, what do you want to be when you grow up? You've gotten your education. You obviously have a great military career. Now you're thrust in the civilian workforce. What are you looking for?
So initially, I was looking at human resources. Mm-hmm. Phil Dana, who runs the kind of day-to-day elements.
The man, the myth, the legend, Phil Dana. If you don't know Phil, you will. Just Google his name. He's an amazing guy.
He basically told us that we were all HR professionals, and we all looked at him kind of doe-eyed, like, you're kidding. That's office work. We don't do that.
Right.
We're men. Some of us have hairy chests. So he brought in a panel of HR people, and they basically said, a lot of what you did on active duty really applies to the civilian world, with the exception of the legal aspect.
Right.
A lot of what we did directly applies. So I started looking at that, but I found that it was kind of challenging because I never had that title, HR, and HR people hiring non-HR people. It's challenging.
And you were a recruiter, but that translates differently into the recruiter civilian world. It's a totally different arena. Mm-hmm.
And the type of recruiting we did is not even the same realm as what recruiters do on the corporate side. So then I started looking at what I've done in the military, skills and attributes I have. And facilities management seemed to tie in well with my interests as well as a need that's out there.
Absolutely. And so there's a couple of great industries here in San Diego and lots of positions open. What industry are you most interested in here in our fair city?
Really looking at getting into biotech, which is challenging when you don't have a biotech background.
But facilities management, I mean, really, you've got skills that are ubiquitous. You've got obviously great organizational skills, leadership, you follow through. So facilities management, you could do that.
I can. Yes. Looking at getting some more certifications and everything that would tie in nicely with that. But that's it's forthcoming.
That's excellent. So thus far, you got out in 2013. How have you found this transition experience? You jumped into education, which a lot of folks do. They follow that path. Were you able to use your GI Bill?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes,
and so then you have your MBA. And now tell us your story. Like, where are you right now? How hard has it been?
It's been very challenging.
Yeah.
Mostly, I think, because I feel like in the private sector, experience really speaks a lot more than education, and experience that's recognized.
Yes.
Yes, I have experience, and everybody, they loved what I did and, what me and fellow veterans have done for the country. But that doesn't really translate to anything. Yes, I went out and I diffused bombs and I, did all this kind of stuff, but what does that have to do with corporate America?
Yep.
And it's been challenging, and it's not anybody's fault. I think it's a cultural difference that it's been challenging for me to overcome. And not only me kind of changing my mindset into the private sector, but also having them understand, what they're really getting. Yes, I may lack skills A, B, and C that they need, but they're getting so much more because I have, attributes that you're not going to find in your standard, non-veteran.
Yeah, exactly. You're listening to Brave Radio here on KCBQ, AM 1170, streaming live on the web at am1170theanswer.com. We're here in studio with Danny Lawrence, former EOD guy and military person extraordinaire. And we're talking about the challenges. You're looking for work. So if our listeners out there know of any positions open in facilities management, definitely give me a call, 619-244-3000, and I can put you in direct contact with Danny. But we're talking about some of those challenges that you and many others face, and it's real in the transition between the military and the civilian world. And in our next segment, we're going to drag Miss Letizia back on to actually talk about that and some of the strategies that you can employ, because as an executive coach, she's got several of them, and actually is very active with the Honor Foundation and helping those guys as well. So lots to talk about. But with your particular story, Danny, that transition and translating your skills sounds like one of the biggest challenges you're facing today.
It really is. I see, regardless of what position I'm looking at, they want these skills. And, there's a lot of attributes that they would like, but I don't possess those skills. Or I do, but they don't fall under a certain title that I've held. Mm-hmm. In the military, we have our primary job, but then lots of collateral duties. So, yes, I may have done it under a collateral duty, but it may not have been my primary job. Or it was something that I just had to learn, and I had to learn it quickly. But I don't necessarily have a certificate or any formal education in that specific area.
Right. And I think a lot of folks that are listening that are in the military, because this is Military Mondays, face the same challenges you're facing today. And so on our next segment, so we're going to go to a break, we're going to come back, and on that segment, we're going to talk about how to address those issues head on, and some of the strategies, again, that listeners, if you're struggling right now, if you're trying to find a job, if you're a military person and you're transitioning into the civilian workplace and you are struggling with this, don't go away, because Letizia is going to have a few answers for us. You're listening to Brave Radio here on KCBQ, AM 1170, streaming live on the web at am1170theanswer.com. Follow us on Twitter at Brave Jobs, or like us on Facebook to stay up to date with the latest news and trends. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, and we're going to be right back with Danny and Letizia and Richard, and we're going to put all of these pieces together. Don't go away. Tired of your employees being late?
There was so much traffic.
Tired of poor excuses and poor presentations?
My kid ate my homework.
Tired of employees just not being able to handle the pressure?
You mean I gotta work a full 8 hours today?
Skip the hassles and excuses and hire individuals that are trained in leadership, confident in their abilities, adaptable to change, and focused on teamwork. Hire a veteran. More than just a patriotic gesture, hiring a veteran of the United States military comes with a host of benefits and tax credits, and can provide your company with valuable leadership, organization, and accountability. Allow the Brave to help your progressive business connect with qualified veteran candidates today, and find out more by visiting thebrave.us. That's THEBRAVE.us.
Easter Seals Work First Military and Veteran Services provides free one-on-one personalized employment assistance for local veterans through their Bob Hope Veteran Support Program. Easter Seals' team of employment specialists is dedicated to achieving successful long-term job placements that benefit both the veteran and the employer. Learn more about how you can receive services, connect with a future employee, or make a donation by visiting easterseals.com/SouthernCal. That's easterseals.com/SouthernCal.
Welcome back. You're listening to Brave Radio right here on KCBQ AM 1170. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, and as promised, we're back with Danny Lawrence, Letizia Armendariz-Lane, and Richard Charron. Welcome back, you guys.
Thank you.
So both of you, Danny and Richard, you both talked about the challenge of transitioning, and you're both in transition right now. Danny, you've got a really impressive background. Anybody can look on your LinkedIn profile. you've got so many great traits and qualities. And I love what you say here. I'm very straightforward and real. I'm an agile learner, and I'm funny. Well, some people think I am. I love that. And so you're obviously real. You obviously have great talent and experience. You've got a great degree, but you're finding it a challenge out there to transition and find a job. So let's talk about some of those challenges. Letizia, I know some of the things we were talking about off air is how to put things in the perspective of the client. Like, how do you market yourself in an interview to say, I want to stay here for the rest of my life. I'm not overqualified. I'm not going to jump ship. I want to be here forever. So talk about some of these strategies that both Danny and Richard can deploy to help them, even in an interview situation.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. So we were talking before about being, how do we influence, right? How are we convincing someone that we are the right person and what is in it for them? So one of the things, and I see a lot of that, and I feel what you're going through, because it's very, very difficult to move from where you're coming from to go where you want to go. Very different environment. You were talking about the different culture, right? Something that we cannot forget about. So one of the things when we are going to reinvent ourselves, and we're going to, as to what you were saying before, we rebooting ourselves, what are the things that we need to think about? So one of the, something comes to my mind, in the forefront of my mind, is when you look at your CV and you're talking about everything you've done, trying to look at that CV without where you're coming from, but looking at your core competency, right, your capabilities, and just trying to have a narrative around that. The other important part when we rethink about ourselves, when we go through transition, is it's not about the most innovative person that will actually win that. It's not the most innovative person that will get to that, but it's the most adaptable person that will go into that. And adaptability is one of the things we need to think about. How do we adapt what we have done, what we have been living and breathing for so many years, and we were the best of the best into that. How do we adapt all of this into this environment that speaks a different language? Mm-hmm. You were talking about going into biotech, coming from where you're coming from. It's an all different culture and different language. How do you adapt yourself into that culture? You do have the capability, you have the competency. You know, what does it mean to rethink about this competence into this language? It's almost when you go from one country into another one, right? Of course, you eat in the same way, you do the same things, but the language is different, mm-hmm. the culture is different. So it's not the most innovative person, but the most adaptable person that will go into a different place. That is part of the transition. It's about the flexible thinking. How do you flex the thinking of what you've done into this new way? So your narrative, right, is not about the deployment. It's not about the flight. It's a different narrative. And that is when you start. It's about going into that from what is in it for them. Why should I hire you, right? What is that they need? So it's always about putting ourselves into the shoes of the other person. So it's not so much about us, but it's about them. Mm-hmm. And when we shift from us to them, then we can go into the sphere of influence on convincing them that actually we are the right person, mm-hmm. right? Competing from, as mm-hmm. you said, people coming out of college through internship into a job. That is a very, very different coming from. But you have something that they don't have. And your necessity is to translate for them what you have into their own language, not using your language, not using what you have done. It's not the what, but the how. And it's the how that will be the bridge for you to connect with them. It's about what is the connection that you can use to start tapping into them.
So in other words, if you've got Danny, who is an EOD guy, it's not that he was able to defuse a bomb while it's ticking and people are standing around wondering if he's going to really do it. Oops, wrong wire. It's the fact that how he did it. So yes. How did you do that? Were you calm, cool, collected, or were you freaking out? Like talking about the how, and that's what you're saying, Letizia, is the companies want to know how he responds in certain situations, not that he defused a bomb.
Absolutely spot on, Eve. Absolutely spot on. It's not about how you defuse the bomb. What you have done is how you have done that. You were thinking, you were analyzing, you were observing, you had a strategic thinking, you have a plan, and you deliver into that plan. That is the how. The what can always come, but it's the how that actually makes the difference.
And as an employer, I can look at that and go, okay, so if the copier breaks down, I'm going to call Danny because he's good under pressure. And the really nice thing is, it can be a really bigger event than that. I mean, I've had ESET on, Vice President of Human Resources, Celeste Blodgett, over to ESET. She's like, Eve, when we do emergency drills, it's the military guys that are last out of the building. They're the ones that are like, get out, everybody go. And they're calm under pressure. And they're the ones that keep their head together in these very stressful situations. And come on, let's face it, work today can be very stressful. Yeah. You need somebody like Danny who's calm, cool, collected, or like Richard, who's calm, cool, collected, and can handle that type of stress and pressure. So Richard, what types of challenges have you faced in your transition? You've had a couple of interviews. They haven't gone exactly as you wanted them to. So talk about that.
Well, I believe it's just like was mentioned, it's retooling yourself. It's immersing yourself in the new culture.
But you've had people say you're overqualified.
Yes.
And in one instance, you're like, okay, given, that's good. But the other two instances, you're like, that didn't feel too good.
No, because you know you can go in, adapt. We were just talking adaptability. One of the things we learn in the military is to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And we can be immersed into any situation on the fly, as you just mentioned, keeping our cool and actually rising to the surface, rising to the top and doing great things.
So you put your application in online, and a lot of our listeners out there do that. And it's a huge mistake because, to your point before, GPS TAP transition programs, people are telling you to put your application in online. How successful were you with that?
No, it's not successful.
That didn't work out for you, did it?
Many other venues or training events that I've been to have said, no, it's networking. It all comes down to networking. Yeah. Less than 2% are going to get pulled off the internet, and it's going to come from networking. And that has been, for the interviews that I've had, has all been networking.
Yep. And so your frustration level, you're out there, you've got a good nature about you, you're still focused, you're going to find a job. There's no question about that, but it's a little challenging in the interim to be in this situation. So what are some of the other challenges that you guys have faced?
Kind of going back a second to talk about, so I've posted my resume online, which, we're all told we're supposed to do. And it seems that the only industry that ever contacts me is selling financial and insurance products.
Oh, gosh. Richard, you're like, yeah, that's right.
And my response to them, and this isn't talking negative about anybody that's selling that. It's an important product. It's just not for me. Mm-hmm. But I'm always amazed. They say, oh, I found your resume online, and I think you'd be a great candidate. How do you think disposing of bombs would be a good candidate for selling insurance?
Right.
And my response to them is usually not so polite. But that's about the only feedback I ever get. So I ended up closing my Career Builder account because I got tired of fielding emails from people about selling insurance. And
so you go on interviews. How has that gone for you?
I guess I have to speak hypothetically because I haven't really gone on that many interviews.
All right.
I've sent my resume out. And the problem is everybody that I speak with, every group or person, it's all talking about the interview. Mm-hmm. And that's great. If I can get to the interview, that would be awesome.
That's right.
But you have to get there.
So Letizia, how would you coach him to get to the interview? That's a huge hurdle to overcome.
It is a very huge one, and I'm very happy that actually we are aware that applying online, it is one way, but probably it's not the best way, right? Mm-hmm. There is so much competition out there, the pressure is high, and it's about creating these connections, a meaningful connection, right? We were talking offline before about going to networking events. Mm-hmm. It's not only about shaking hands and giving a business card, but how much you put the effort into that network event. How many contacts are meaningful contacts when you come out, when you go back home? And it's about starting from there. And it's only through personal connection that you do have that probably, more possibility to go into the interview. So yes, online, fine if you want to do that, but build. meaningful connections. So the network is about, and go very prepared to that. Who do you want to know? Know the list of people that are coming to this event. Study them. Go and search them on LinkedIn, on the website. Now everything is out there. Knowing who you're going to meet and actually be very selective. Be very targeted on who you want to meet and what you want to get out of that. And then, of course, as you well know, you follow up and you go back. And you keep nurturing these relationships because you never know where they will go. And that connection will be to another connection. That is the best way, is one of the most important investment that we need to do, especially during transition, building these personal connections that are meaningful.
Letizia Amadini Lane, executive coach here in San Diego. Great advice. And to your point, Richard, before you said the 3 job interviews that you got, were they because you put your application online?
No, they were all from networking.
All 3 of them were from network. And so huge influence. So Dania, you're obviously out there, you're networking. What are some of your favorite places in case our listeners are looking for places to go network? They're finding the same frustration that you have. They've got their resume out there, quote unquote, but they're not getting any interviews. Where have you gone?
So usually when I'm trying to connect with somebody, comes down to like having a position that I'm interested in. And I found that probably the most successful thing is, so you have a position you're looking for at a certain company, look for the senior veteran there. Not senior military veteran, not rank, but their position within the company. And then just send them an email. It has to say 2 very specific words. Okay. Help and veteran. And I found that with the exception of one, every single one of them has said, at least tried to help and get my resume to the right person. The problem I found is that a lot of people that have jobs don't really look at their LinkedIn profile. So trying to find that person through other means, you may send this person an email on LinkedIn and it may be weeks before they get to it.
Right.
And trying to contact HR people or recruiting people, they're so inundated with emails.
They are. That's true.
And I'm always told, follow up. But after 2 or 3 emails, you kind of think
don't give up.
They're either not interested or whatever. And you say don't give up. But at a certain point, you need to kind of evaluate where you are and think, okay, is this person going to get back to me? By then the position's probably closed.
Right.
And the other one I found is writing something and publishing it. It's
there you go. And you published something on LinkedIn. Tell us about that.
So I published a letter called, it's an open letter to HR professionals. And
it went viral. Tell us in it. We got it like a couple more minutes. Tell us about that.
Viral, and all 52 people that shared it. It's basically talking about the challenges that veterans as a whole are facing when it comes down to looking for work, and all the things we've been talking about here, the culture, the things that we bring to the table that the average person in the workforce doesn't. And it's not speaking negatively about anybody. It's just we're a different breed of people, and we have different attributes. And a lot of times that gets unrecognized because we don't have the direct experience that someone that went to college, got the degree, and went directly into the workforce has.
Right. Yeah, it's a challenge. And that's where you influence, right? Were you in the interview or putting our resume out there and we're influencing?
Absolutely.
All right, you guys. Any other last closing comments before we close out this show? You guys are amazing, and I am absolutely confident that you're going to find a job in the next few months if we have anything to do with it. So listeners, I want you to contact Richard Charron. Richard, how can they get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me mainly on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn page.
So it's Richard and C-H?
Richard, C-H-A-R-R-O-N for Charron. And from there will be the best way to contact me.
And they can also reach out to us through Brave Radio. And then Danny Lawrence, same thing?
Same thing. I'm Danny Lawrence, Lawrence. There's quite a few of us that have an MBA. I'm the one with the beard.
And again, listeners, you can contact me 619-244-3000 to get the resumes of these guys. Let's do informational interviews. Let's get these guys hired. And that's what San Diego is all about. We've got a close-knit community here. We love our veterans. We love our military. We're here to support you guys. So thank you for being a part of the show. And Letizia, thank you for all that you're doing to help these guys strategize to get into that next chapter of their life here in the civilian world.
It's absolutely my pleasure and my honor.
I'm Eve Nasby, and you've been listening to Brave Radio in partnership with Military Mondays here on KCBQ, AM 1170 The Answer. If you want to find out more about how you can hire top veteran talent, or if you're interested in being a guest on our show, call me 619-244-3000 or visit our website at www.thebrave.us. Send us a tweet at Brave Jobs or like our Facebook page. Keep that dial right here on KCBQ AM 1170, because up next is my good friend Andrea Kay. She is the daughter of 2 Marines and a patriot who loves America and our military. From all our guests and me, thanks for joining us. And until next Monday, may God bless our veterans and God bless America.
Thanks for listening to Brave Radio. If you know a veteran looking for work, or if your company is hiring, call Eve at Brave at 619-244-3000. Give her a tweet at Brave Jobs and connect with them on Facebook. To be a guest on the show, visit thebrave.us.